Hello, welcome to a new podcast episode. I'm very excited because today we're gonna discuss Metaverse. We have someone who is the founder of Metaverse Architects. Luca, thank you for coming.
Amazing. Thank you for inviting me. Really pleasure to be here.
Yes, definitely a pleasure. And actually, it's a bit of a challenge for me because I know you were interviewing people yourself before.
That's it, yes. I mean, at the same time that I started up Metaverse Architects, I was also launching a podcast that was about startups, entrepreneurship, and I used that as a way to kind of reach out to people who knew things I don't know and ask them all about it. And I think it was a useful way to learn from other people's stories and experiences and share them not just with myself but with everybody else.
Yes, perfect. So of course today I'll try to make it like leave it up to the bar. Maybe you said. So hopefully we'll make it interesting for you. The metaverse. How did you get into the sphere?
Well, at the start of 2021, I had just sold my previous businesses, which was a wine subscription club and a nightlife tourism company. And I was looking for a new opportunity. I previously, when I was at university studying pharmacy, I did a blockchain thesis in blockchain in healthcare. So I had the background from 2017. But I had no money or not enough money to kind of make a big startup or to buy land in a virtual world, because I had just discovered Decentraland, and that was, you could say, the first kind of metaverse platform, and land was already expensive. So I started thinking, how can I actually make a business inside of this 3D space, inside of this metaverse world? And what I recognized is that because the virtual land is expensive and it's a speculative asset, there were investors who were coming in and buying this land. And there's many stories, even from Malta, of developers in the 60s and 70s who came from nothing, and they just created companies that would develop land and build projects. And I assumed that in the metaverse, this same kind of demand would be needed of people who design buildings, virtual buildings, as well as virtual experiences, to drive and attract people to go inside of Decentraland. So I set up the website, Decentraland Architects, which we rebranded to Metaverse Architects at the start of 2022. And I started just reaching out to people who know how to 3D model, and then I started trying to help them find customers. So I became that person who was able to market and sell Decentraland as a place where you can go and build your virtual property, and then outsource that to 3D modelers around the world. So that's how I got into it.
So that story and that description seems like kind of get into the metaverse is pretty easy, but I think it takes require the specific skills.
So yeah, I guess the skills are not easy to actually build and develop, because you need to be a technical artist. That's somebody who can do 3D modeling but also programming. However, it's easier than trying to become an architect in real life or trying to build in the real life, because there's no MEPA, there's no license to be an architect inside the metaverse. It's an open playground for anybody from anywhere in the world. Malta is not, I would say, the most disadvantaged place in the world, but it's not Silicon Valley. And even from this small island, I was able to compete with the rest of the world. And that's only because when you're in a very innovative space, everything you're doing is probably unique, it's probably innovative, it's creative, and you have a chance to kind of do something no one has thought about, and that's your unique advantage. So whilst maybe it might sound complicated, if you have time could be your best investment in this case, to learn and educate yourself about what it is you need to actually succeed in this new kind of internet era. So that's how I look at it.
So for those who maybe would find the subject interesting as it is, how would you say they can make their way in?
Well, the first thing you can be is a tourist. I think of Decentraland, the Sandbox, and Spatial. These are all metaverse platforms as different cities. Now, if you'd like to go and visit the city, you can ask somebody who maybe would like to take you on a tour. I would be happy to take people on a tour of Decentraland. It's something that it's a place I know well, so I would know what to show you and where to go. But just like traveling, you could also just log in, go into your browser, get into Decentraland, and through your browser or through the desktop app, enter this 3D virtual world. Yes. You need to have a laptop which is not a Chromebook, just a basic laptop. A Chromebook would work, it just maybe be a bit slow. But then things like Spatial, you can actually access from your mobile phone. So Spatial is an app that you can access from your mobile, from the Oculus. In all cases, Decentraland is free to use, Spatial is free to use. The only paid features of these platforms are if you're actually going to purchase land or do something that's a bit more complex than visiting. Visiting is free.
Let's follow that lead. So I would enter as a tourist, I have a look around, and then I can kind of quickly realize like how the other the buildings are made there, what people made it already, and of course you can see those lands that are available to buy as well.
Correct. You can see lands that are available to buy, you can see architecture, but there's also experiences that can be had. By experiences I mean games. So every day we're seeing new games being released inside of Decentraland. At the moment we're working on one that's called Wayrest, which is like a dungeon game, a place that you can go fight monsters and win a prize at the end. What's different to these video games than what you'd find on PlayStation or on Roblox, for example, is that these games are built in a Web3 world. So no one actually owns the server and the actual kind of virtual space. This is all governed by the users. And then there's the element of cryptocurrency and NFTs to actually power the infrastructure. So what's very important about Metaverse is that we're seeing the first use cases of blockchain technology, where you can enter into Decentraland, use the game, play, earn, but never actually say the word Bitcoin or blockchain, and you don't even realize that this is the underpinnings of what you're using.
Does it mean like entering the Metaverse, you always need to use the VR sets? Or you can just enter normally from the laptop too?
No, you can enter from the laptop, depending which platform. Some of them have the VR, some of them have the mobile app as well, some are present across all three. So depending which platform you're going to enter, you would use a different device. Maybe you could compare it to, in Malta you can arrive by airport, but you can also arrive by sea.
For example, I would like to buy the land. It means then I need to have own the NFT as well?
So if you want to buy land and you want to own land, when you purchase that land, what you are essentially purchasing is an NFT.
Okay. But then within if you open OpenSea today, you would see a lot of them are the characters as well. So how do they differ?
So on the character side, that's a whole new industry which is burgeoning. It's the fashion industry is entering these metaverse spaces with vigor. So you would see a lot of big brands are endorsing this concept of NFTs to represent your clothing online. Now, I personally was never such a big fan of fashion brands in real life. And I think a lot of young people also have that same idea that fast fashion is no longer a good idea. Having digital fashion could be a way for fashion brands to maintain, high volumes, high sales, but not continue this kind of growing problem of sustainability in the fashion industry. And what we're seeing is that the Metaverse Fashion Week was one of the most popular events that happened in Decentraland. 120,000 people went over a weekend to the fashion estate, where there was brands like Giorgio Armani, Forever 21, all displaying their different digital collections, where users can buy an NFT of a hat or a shirt or shoes and wear them on their character, on their avatar. And this is an important part of the metaverse, because just as when you go to watch a concert or a football match, you'll wear your jersey or some merchandise. When we're watching experiences like a concert in a 3D space, you also want to signal to other people who you are, what you represent, by what you wear. So that's what really got me into fashion today. Is my work at Metaverse Architects is about bringing people together in these virtual spaces, and an important aspect of people feeling like they have an identity in this 3D world is what they look like.
What you're describing is already like the huge things are happening already in, because I think there are still huge number of people who doesn't know anything about it yet. How developed everything is, you think?
So I'm a character who's a very early adopter. So when I look 1 year ago, when I entered the Decentraland, there was nothing. It was a desert. You know, some parts of the Decentraland are still a desert, but there are many others which have, you know, sprung to life. So I see the difference from 1 year ago, and I see a lot of development has happened. But then, of course, I do recognize that there is a lot of work to be done to make to make all of these metaverse applications more accessible, more understandable, and I think that's something that happens over time. I personally look towards what the kids are doing because I know that you know, when I was 12, 13 years old, I was playing Minecraft. And Minecraft back then was very small, but then over 10, 15 years of development, it became, you know, it has over 1 billion people on that platform. So I look at these platforms, and I do see them as a place where Gen Zs, they very naturally pick it up. This is not to say that it's not for people who are, you know, millennial or above, right? There is actually a big need for people with more experience, more finance, more capital to actually invest in these young creators who, at the end of the day, are going to be trendsetters of the future. Just as we know, Instagram influencers have, you know, become a very big, you know, part of marketing. Then we should also look to the younger people, the next generation, and where are they going to be hanging out. So that's how I would say we would know, like, what the next big thing is. But to go back to your question, I do think that there needs to be more work done, and it is being done every day.
In preparation for this episode with you today, you know, I've asked just normal people having different professions, like what would they know? And I think the first kind of message for the general public was the announcement from Facebook. And how would you say how different they are for this, like the Sandbox, the Decentraland, and the other side? Say Facebook build their own world as well, or no?
Right. So what's interesting is Facebook helped the whole industry kind of accelerate. But then the industry that existed doesn't have the best opinion about Meta. Mostly because of a difference in values. Decentraland, Sandbox, Spatial, they're building their product in a way where they want to attract the Web3 community, who are very mindful about their data, their privacy, which is something that Facebook has become notorious for. However, at the same time, what Meta is doing is bringing a lot of, you know, attention, developers, and technology to the space. So as long as that technology can be used in an open source way and it is shared with everybody to kind of develop with, that's good for society. If the approach of Meta would be to, you know, patent everything and to keep everything siloed and for themselves, and wants to monopolize our data to basically maintain their control over the internet, as we know, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp consume our lives today, then I would say that could be detrimental for the industry.
Like, where the industry is going, with this old like a mini worlds you describe, the focus is to join forces one day and make that one big world, or not?
Yes, so the concept behind that is known as interoperability. And interoperability is important for the metaverse because, as we mentioned, these are different cities, and we need to connect these cities together to be able to travel between them. Some people compare it to galaxies, and you need to be able to travel from, you know, one star to the other. Those are tech problems. There's work by a PhD researcher, Dr. Kim Nevelstein, on interoperability that's been being done for the past 4 or 5 years. That was before kind of these metaverse platforms. And I just think it's a matter of time till we see more of these metaverse platforms connected. Decentraland and Sandbox already have a grant which is worked on by Dr. Kim Nevilstein, which is an attempt to connect these two together so that you would be able to travel between Sandbox and Decentraland. Now, Decentraland is the most open source metaverse out there, and it's my opinion that there's a good chance that because of Decentraland's open standards, it would allow Sandbox to connect interoperably, it would allow Spatial, it would allow maybe even Meta to connect to it. And that's basically what we need, is open standards, so that who is developing their own private metaverse knows how to connect to a central point. Now, in the sci-fi film Ready Player One, this central point is known as the Nexus. Ready Player One is a film about the metaverse, and the metaverse in that case is known as the Oasis. The Oasis is all of these separate cities, and the Nexus is that central place where all of these cities can connect to. It could be that Decentraland becomes that Nexus just because of its open source nature.
So, in your opinion, because this is definitely your full-time job, this is something that will stay here for long?
That's a good question. I often wonder, and I look back to history to answer this question, because metaverse will be here as an industry, just as social media was not invented by Facebook, right? Social media is more of a concept. It's the combination of these technologies to create a useful tool, which is a web application. But the first social media was not Facebook. There was MySpace, there was High Five, and those took off. They were popular, but they didn't stand the test of time. So my question here is not if the metaverse will be here, but which platforms will be here with us.
That's a nice answer. Like today, I think we have like a very red market within the crypto as well. And today you can see that the panic level is quite high. What's your prediction?
I mean, there's never a prediction. The general consensus of people who work full time in the industry is that yes, when things are up, there's opportunities, and I think a lot of people who have been in the crypto space for years now have had an opportunity to capitalize on those speculative gains. But when it comes to these moments of fear, where everybody is fearful and there is less kind of noise, because there's more fear, this is the moment when people are putting their head down, educating themselves more, working on the tech, because at the end of the day, the tech needs to keep being developed for another 5-10 years, and the market is going to continue to swing up and down, whether the technology improves or doesn't improve. So that's the general thing, is that cycles are normal. They're normal in the crypto market, they're normal in the currencies market, in the stock market.
And it's not the first time, right?
Yeah, that's it. And there was actually a very interesting comparison, which was, we often look back at and we say tulip mania, right? The tulip mania in the Netherlands, and what a disaster that was. Well, it's true, it was a disaster. A lot of people lost money when they were buying tulips that then crashed. But the tulip industry today is still something that generates millions and millions of euros, and it's a significant part of the GDP of the Netherlands. So whilst the tulip mania came and went, the tulip market is still booming.
What would you say? Like, how far can you arrive within the Metaverse Architects? What is like the biggest goal?
Our biggest goal is to continue to develop our own IP, to continue to develop our own products, because we started as a company that was simply until today we work for clients, where we help people who have their own company, whatever industry it is, to enter into the metaverse space. By doing that, we've developed unique skills that give us an opportunity to create products that are unique, that we would want to make for ourselves, and put out there to see the market and to actually create our own products, right? So it's like at the moment we're manufacturing for other brands, but we would like to now start manufacturing also for our own ideas, our own concepts, our own stories.
I mean, what is fascinating is not like you would see the division for the company would be 1 to 3 years. It's something what can be very long, and I think this is exciting because as well other opportunities can come about. Knowing you now and everybody who is listening, you seem to be like very knowledgeable and you know your things. Is anything else you involved in, or this is only the focus?
I follow basically two main industries, which is digital nomads and metaverse, and I think there is quite a good overlap in terms of values, ideas, and even skills between digital nomads and the metaverse. When I start 1 year ago, while starting Metaverse Architects, I had launched that podcast, but I also launched another business which was known as Nomad Visa Malta. I was for a number of years researching about digital nomads, being active in the community here in Malta to raise awareness about how this could be an attractive industry for the country, because Malta has a number of key factors that make it attractive to people who are digital nomads. And I said the past year I've helped a real lot of people from all over the world, you know, from Australia, Singapore, the United States, UK, actually apply and get this nomad residency permit, which I think is quite an interesting permit, because it's kind of understanding that we live in a new world, which is the post-COVID reality, where it is now very obvious that everybody can work from no matter their location, and for certain people their productivity is actually improved by being separated from the office. So I do see a bit of overlap between Web3, Metaverse, and everybody who works in that industry and digital nomads, because the Web3 world is very distributed. Our team, we are 6 people in Malta, but we have 2 people in the US. We've got partners who are from Canada. We've got partners from India, from all over the world, really. So I think that seeing the metaverse industry grow and the crypto space grow is also going to create more of a demand in the digital nomad space, or at least with people who identify themselves as a digital nomad.
And so it's fantastic to know that you offer that help on top of everything as well. You always like this good person? You always been like that?
I've always liked to bring people together. I've always liked to organize events and kind of see people having fun. And when I started my first company, which was a nightlife company, I thought I was selling drinks, but very quickly I realized it was about turning strangers into friends. And then it's the same thing with the metaverse. I thought I was going to be selling 3D models, but it's more about bringing people together in virtual spaces. When I have people visit Malta from abroad, there's a certain enjoyment I do take in showing somebody around, telling them about the history, telling them about the story, because that's something that forms a part of my identity of where I grew up. And seeing somebody's reaction for the first time when you take them to Fiha, which is my favorite surf beach, is always something fun. Yeah.
From knowing your story now more, it feels like you've done already. But actually, from the another hand, it feels like you're still gonna do like much more. So our aim is definitely will be to following you. And my God, what's coming next?
We don't know. We can never know. I just remain open to a future that we cannot predict. The best way we can predict it is maybe to write some science fiction stories. But other than that, there's no way of knowing.
Exactly. And with this positive accent, guys, that was Luca for you. If you have any questions, if something wasn't covered, feel free to reach out and he will be there for you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Luca, for your time.
Cheers.